Okay, are we here? Did I do it? Are we in a good way or a bad way? I can't tell. Um, you're gonna see what the title of this stream is about in a little bit, but first, I'm going to do some show and tell. I've got a session tomorrow, session of Dungeons and Dragons, with the usual group. We're gonna be doing this bit of session 2, probably the first little bit. We might get on to the going to town portion, maybe we'll see. I might just talk about the travel and then we'll call it, because we got a bit of a short day. Why is the chat not working? Uh-oh. We have some weather happening. Unfortunately, a lot of weather is happening, so my internet might go out. My power might go out too. Some shit like fell down outside. I'll have to go check on that, make sure it's not my car in a little bit. But before all that, I'm going to do a little bit of show and tell on what I've prepped. Two things, really. The first is this long rest random table. Now, I've stolen some of this because great artists rip off people on like Reddit and then don't remember what post it was or who those people were. So, this idea of a secured and unsecured rest is not mine. I definitely just stole this. And this is my system for doing random tables in D&D. If you've never played with random tables, the ones that they give you in like the DMG are pretty buns. It's like, oh, do you want to fight some wolves? And you know what? Honestly, I don't want to fight wolves. Wolves are boring. Once you're past level 1, wolves don't really mean anything. And also, then you gotta make time for a bunch of like combat. Combat takes forever. And if it's not narratively important, why would you ever run combat? Unless you're playing like a OSR game, where the point is we're gonna play combat board game until everyone dies, right? Snack, can you get off that paper? Hey. No, get off that. That's not yours. That's not a bed, that's a sheet of paper that I need. Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Good job. Alright. Hang on. So we've got 2 tables, one for secured, and one for unsecured. These are both D20 tables, and they're both a little bit different. So in an unsecured location, we only have a 5% chance of rolling this machinations table, which is my idea. Well, I'm sure someone's had a similar idea before me, but I came up with the actual text on that. We've got a random dream table. This is where I just seed the idea of some plot points, either for this campaign or for other campaigns, just to, you know, give them a little insight into what I've thought ahead on, and maybe what I haven't thought ahead on. We've got the long rest event table. I'll explain a bit more about what all these do. A lot of times nothing of note happens, and then you're extremely rested until the next long rest. You have an additional hit die is when you get a 20, or an 18 through 20 when you're secured. You'll notice that this bad option, bad in quotes, because it's not really bad, this bad option happens less when you're in unsecured locations than secured. Secured is like when they're in a bastion or when they're in the tavern, right? If they're out traveling, the machinations table is less likely to happen. And the reason for this is because the machinations table is essentially the outside world taking its turn. And I don't want the outside world taking its turn too often while the players are out trying to do stuff. If the players are affecting change, I don't see a need for the world to change too much. But if the players are sitting at home, well, the world's gonna come and find them. But let's do our long rest events table first. This is all stuff that could happen to the party, right? Specifically on that night. So, we've got one, something's missing. These are all just ideas. Nothing is set in stone. If I hit one of these, I'm gonna have to think of something on the spot. That's kind of where I like to live anyway. Something's burning. I have a few ideas for this. This could be like a building in the town they're staying in. This could be like someone rolls too close to the fire, like thrashing in the night or something. Dragons are a mainstay of the campaign. Lightning, also a mainstay of the campaign. One of the players is Amnesiac from the Crooked Moon. So there's their subclass Amnesiac, so maybe they could remember something about their story. And then 6 is a mysterious gift. I don't know what this is going to be just yet. We'll see when I roll it what I come up with. Then we've got a dream table. I'm not going to show it, but there's like 20 dreams. They've rolled 1 already. But that's like super duper spoilers, and I'm just not going to show it. So, now we've got machinations. Machinations? Machinations? I don't know. So, essentially, the description: while the party takes a sweet time, the plot moves forward without them. And then this is a 2d10 table. So, the items in the center here, 11, is the center of this table, is likely to happen way more often than the ones at the end, right? So think about a bell curve. This is essentially a bell curve-ish. And the cumulative odds of either end happening when the party is like out adventuring is very, very small. I think it's like 0.005% or something, like incredibly tiny. The odds of this ever happening in a campaign are close to 0. They're not 0, but if it happened more than once, I'd be very, very surprised, and we'd probably be playing for many years at that point. So I'm going to start just at the top, we're going to go to the bottom. I'll kind of give you a hint as to when things are more likely and when they're less likely. So, if you roll a 2, a friendly NPC falls ill. A lot of this can just transfer campaign to campaign. A lot of campaigns are going to have a few NPCs at least. Some of these can't, and I'll point those out if they're very specific to my campaign. We've got the party receives a large investment for their adventure to be returned with interest. This could be, a plot point. Maybe you don't even have to do this last part. Maybe they just get like 10,000 gold pieces or something to put in their bastion, or to fund like purchasing magic items or something of the sort. Enemy infighting. So there's going to be an opposite to this. This one makes the enemies less powerful, so they go last in initiative or lower in initiative. The opposite is true, where sometimes the enemies can go higher in initiative, and that one actually happens more often. Because, I need to balance somehow, and the players are typically more powerful than the enemies, so the enemies get extra boons every now and again. A friend of one of the party members attempts to contact them. I don't know what this is going to be, but it'll be cool when it happens. I'll figure it out. The party receives a request to meet with the enemy. This could be, what is it, Curse of Strahd, I think? Spoilers for Curse of Strahd. I've not played it or ran it, but I believe that at some point you get to talk to Strahd before the final battle, so that's cool. 7, a festival occurs in a nearby town over the next week. This one is, whenever the players get to that town, there will be a festival happening when they go there, if it's within the week. If they show up the following week after I roll this, they'll hear about the fact that there was a festival last week. They just will have missed it at that point. A member of the local community, this is where things start getting pretty likely on this table. A member of the local community hears a tale of a party member's exploits and becomes a fan. This just gives us the option to introduce NPCs later on that already like the party, that are already friendly right off the bat. The party is watched for the next 3 days, and then they get to roll a perception check each morning to see if they notice. And the DC for that is 23 minus the party level. I'm assuming that higher level adventurers who have been doing this for a long time would be on their feet, like, head on a swivel, ready to spot people. So this should balance out a bit more. When you're level 1, you're never going to hit it, but when you're level 5, you'll hit it, on an 18 or whatever. So let's get some actual music here, huh? A vendor has a sale. The first vendor the party encounters within the next week gives a 10% discount. Same thing. They get there after that week. They'll hear about a discount having been available, but no longer. And then this is the most likely one, which is combat. I think it's one of the only combat encounters that I have specifically written down. The enemy learns their whereabouts. A small force is sent to intercept the party on their journey. This could be an ambush. They could go set traps on the road to wherever the party's going next. They could, if the party is staying in the same spot for, many days, an enemy could show up and attack them. This gives me so many options, and I'm thrilled to have thought of it quickly. 12. So this is, now we're going back down in likeliness. The enemy trains. The next combat the party encounters one of the enemies gets +5 to initiative. If rolled more than once, this combat effect stacks. So you could give one enemy like +10, or you could give, 2 enemies +5. I left it vague on purpose. 13, preview the boss if possible that the boss makes an appearance within the week. If not, the party hears word of the boss's exploits in a nearby town or encampment. If you're not comfortable with the idea that the party might jump on the boss very early on and either die or kill your boss that you plan to happen later, don't do it like that. Just have them hear about the boss doing something the next time over, obviously. Taxes, in quotes, the next guard or politician a party member meets demands a D100, so you just roll a D100. Gold piece tax payment. If rolled more than once, it stacks. So I'm imagining, like, the party goes into town after a long time away, and they've just written a new policy that's like, the mayor of the town's like, well, you do live down the road, so you owe us 100 gold pieces or whatever, something fucking stupid. Or they get to a town gate and they give them the old Riften treatment where they're like, oh, you gotta pay me a bribe to get in. So, 15, the party receives a request to meet with a friendly NPC. That could be for any reason. I don't know. A warning sign of the coming apocalypse appears over the next week. Apocalypse is a big theme in my game, so obviously you can see up here that the apocalypse is the era that they're currently in. And they've been having 3,000 years of this era, so cool. A grand treasure moves from one nearby town or city to another. And then another note for me later. This is the perfect time for to enlist the party as bodyguards or to bank a heist one-shot. This could literally be like, you say that you hear word of a treasure moving from one town to another, and then you can just cut to past that, right? So you just cut the story to past whenever that happened. And then you can just decide, did the party abscond with the treasure? Did they sell it? Did they get gold for their exploits? And then later on, when you're like, I'm sick, I can't prep anything, just fucking throw a one-shot heist together, or one-shot bodyguard combat. Run it like super OSR style, where you're just, playing a board game. Probably not as high stakes, right, where you're gonna die as OSR, but, just something for the night. A beer and pretzels type deal, A side quest the party isn't currently engaged in resolves itself. This is vague on purpose, but, like, if they talk to the farmer and the farmer's like, I need help with getting this hay put up in the loft, right? And the party, fucks off to do something else. Eventually that guy's gonna figure his shit out on his own. So, this is a little option. As long as they aren't currently pursuing it, I'm fine with just going, nope, you missed it. A friendly NPC is captured by the enemy. This one is narratively useful. And then a friendly NPC just dies. Maybe got, like, stepped on by a giant, or like a horse kicked him in the chest or something silly. Or, maybe he gets killed by a boss, or any number of things, Okay. Let's jump back here. Oh, no, not that one. I wrote this Hearthar Ruins module a while back. I don't know if I finished it on... I don't think I finished it on stream. but I added a bunch of stuff to this. I added the XP for the Homeward Bound and Dragon Tuner item. Dragon Tuner levels by killing enemies, so you know there's that. Homeward Bound levels on a different condition. I added a few items here. I've got all of the stat blocked out. I think the big thing that I changed that I was actually kind of proud of was this mithril dragon that I had set up. I gave it a bit more of a story beat, right? Not overarching story, but just, you know, little mini story within this room of this is a dragon. I had originally had it that if they took 10 minutes in this room, the dragon would just attack, but then I read what mithril dragons are about in the Tome of Beasts, and I was like, okay, there's actually more to it. These guys are like true neutral. They don't want to fight. They want people to stop fighting. But this guy was, you know, injured. So it's distressed, which is already a point towards just fight. But, you know, if the players kill the dragon, that's one thing. But if they help the dragon, then they'll get a platinum piece and a few of these eyes that I've got for one of the players' magic items. And then down here, I added a bunch of stuff for the final boss room, which there's a small version of the Cobalt Dragonborn zombie for the basement of the school, because it's a kid who died in the basement of the school. This is, I think, just a kobold stat block that I modified slightly. Yeah, I gave it the last breath and undead nature, and the slime attack, but all of the stats are kobold stats, so. And then there's this spectral cobalt dragon priest. This is a banshee that I modified slightly. I tried to get it right around challenge 3. And then I gave it a pseudo breath weapon, which is a psychic wave. There might actually be a psychic wave ability that I just don't know about, so I just went with my gut. Here, I'm not releasing this to the public unless you want to like copy this. Oh, you can't even really see it. I guess it's very small. Can I zoom? Can I zoom? Why the fuck is this so small? Can I full screen this? No. No, okay. So the Psychic Wave is bludgeoning damage, which is what the Cobalt Dragonborn does, and then just 1d8 Psychic. And then if you take 7 or more Psychic damage, the way you fall prone, you can't stand up till the start of the Dragonborn's next turn. So basically you stay prone. Which is debilitating, but that's the price of taking a lot of damage, I guess. This is an enemy that could realistically kill a player, I think. Especially if they're fighting 5 of these kobolds as well. We'll see how they do. This is a cast fireball in the room that we're all standing in type encounter, so we'll see. Okay. I've only got till midnight EST, which is Eastern Standard Time for the folks who don't live in America and know our time zones. Because I do need to get to bed. I've got D&D at noon tomorrow instead of 2 p.m. Although maybe I'll stream tomorrow night as well. Unless folks stay over late. This is not what I planned. The title and the thumbnail don't relate to this shit at all. So I'm gonna put it away. That's all of my show and tell. Look, I'm a cool DM who does cool DM stuff. Now we're gonna move on to code. I'm doing coding. Hooray! Let me actually change my category in Twitch to code. Software and game development. Okay, cool, done. This is still D&D related, but we're doing software development. So if you're not happy with boring stream, you guys don't watch it. This is science and tech? I guess this is science and tech. The YouTube Oh, discard changes. No, no, no. Don't discard anything. Hang on. YouTube's being an asshole. Alright, we're keeping it gaming, I guess. Sorry if you show up expecting gaming and you get code. Let me change my titles around. And then, oh, I've got tea in here still. And it's still warm. I don't remember pouring it, but that's cool. Okay. Web app. Okay. Cool, cool. I will explain what this is going to be in a moment. Let's get this second title out of here. Let's get you some stuff on screen. So at least you're looking at something cool. My public IP is on this, right? Yeah, probably. Probably fine. Chrome? No, not Chrome. Code. Yippee, code. No. This needs to be small. I don't know why that's so big. And then can I just zoom in on this stuff? How do I zoom? Can I make the text like bigger? Yeah, there we go. Okay, now you should be able to read this, maybe. This is awful. Oh my gosh, the text is so fucking blown out on my screen. Yeah, okay. Now, I go to this on here, it gives me this window. I can prop up. I'll prop this up here. And then this one, Chrome, open sheet. Or if we're gonna show it, oh, cool. Got our open sheet window, and we've got code. Open. Sorry, this is stark white. There's not much up. There's something I could do, but fuck it. No dark mode yet. I've not implemented that. So I've noticed a problem. Not like a big problem, but a problem. Hold up. Hang on. Hang on. I'm gonna MS Paint you for a second. Paint. Why is this not working? Hold. Oh, hold. Where is... Where's my MS Paint? Why is that not showing up in my windows? Hello? Oh, here we go. Okay. We got this. Cool. Now you can see me writing. So I've got a problem. DnD Beyond sucks, dude. It's so bad. I mean, it's not like super bad. I'll live with it. But it's not great. It's very difficult to create homebrew, which is a lot of what I do. It's kind of unintuitive for new people getting into things. You've got to give everyone a link to join your campaign and stuff. And that's not super intuitive. The layout changed recently, which fucking threw everyone off, which is taking a ton of time. When you upload homebrew, that's just on someone else's server, which is not my favorite. And, you know, 1,000 other reasons to be upset, right? You can't have custom classes, which comes up more often than I would have expected, but it's still a problem. So, I'm gonna do something about it. Now, I'm not making a competitor to DnD Beyond, because frankly, I don't have the money for that, or the resources. And, well, I probably could do it, but not well. We'll talk a bit more about that, because that's all AI involved stuff. So it'll come up. It'll come up. And exactly how much of AI I'm using was going to be a part of me talking about building this stuff. So, yeah. Essentially, here's the idea. You go to the internet. You go to GitHub. This is GitHub. Right? GitHub. And you say, give me code. Give me code for this project. And GitHub gives you code. And you say, thanks, GitHub, I love you. And then you take code, and you put code on your server. Or you pay for a server. Oh, that's off screen. Hang on. Hold. What? Oh, this is my MS Paint window. Oh. What was I changing before? What is this window? Also MS Paint. Well, I'm smart. You've got your server that now has code on it. And then you tell friends. Friends. Hang on. Friends. And you say, friend, go server. And they go server. And server gives character sheet. And now they have character sheet. And isn't this beautiful? This is what where's the delete button? Can I just make a selection? I just don't nuke all this stuff? Leave it be. Alright. So anyway, that's that. Words are easier. Explain with words. I have server here. I have set up server. Server do lot stuff. Server do things like authenticate user. Right? Authenticate user, login, create, things of that nature. Things like send file to computer to say display this info. Things like pass these information around and tell user what's happening. Now this server right now is hosted on my machine, my local computer, the one that I'm streaming off of, and it on localhost, which is my computer, on this port, which means I go on my computer this port, and then I get this window. This window opens up. See, it's the same thing up here. Localhost 5173. Then, when finished with app, I put app up on Big Smart Place, GitHub. And you take app from Big Smart Place, GitHub, and you put it on your computer. And then everyone make D&D character sheet on your computer. Or you host on server, and everyone make D&D character sheet on their server with information stored on your server. I'm basically just making it decentralized-ish. Not really, it's still centralized, but a less centralized version of D&D Beyond's character sheet thing. It'll be using the SRD. My plan is to give you a few options of things you can do. So like creating, obviously, character sheets, creating custom homebrew spells and items and all that jazz, creating custom templates for your character sheets. So if you got a really sweet character sheet idea, or if you're playing, like, I'm going to bring it up again because I'm so excited, the Neon Odyssey RPG, if you're not a VIP, they have custom character sheets that are like super science fantasy inspired. If you wanted a character sheet like that, you could put it on your OpenSheet server, and your friends could all use it. Right? So Obviously the sky's the limit with what you can add. My goal is to also provide a backend for this stuff that is far superior to D&D Beyond. We'll see if I accomplish that. Because I see the reason that their designer, no, not designer, their backend system works like that, right? I see the reason for it. I'm just skeptical that that's the best way to do it. So let's see what I can do. I don't know that I need to explain. Do I need to explain how this works? I guess I'll explain it. So I have two big pieces of code here. They're all in one repository because this is just how I prefer to do it. You can split up the front end and the server into two separate repositories, and often people do, and it's probably the better way to do it, but for now I just have server in a folder. The reason for that is I don't want to have two VS Code windows open, and this is just how I'm used to doing it. I'll be 100% honest. It also means you only need one server. You don't need to do any like complex building and then forwarding to a different location. You just do it like this, and it's super simple. So here's how this works. I'll MS Paint you again. You have server. Nope, that's a select window. Where's my pen tool? You have server. That's also not correct. Why is the line thickness so small? You have server. This is server. Let's actually put node. Node. Right, your node server. Node.js is the service that a lot of people, including myself, use to build backend routers. It's the thing you can see under my MS Paint here, where it says router.post and router.get. This manages your connection. So when you're on your computer, your actual computer screen, here, this is you, and you're on the web page, which is on Google or Bing or Safari, or Edge or Explorer or Opera or whatever you're using. Here, let's give you a mouse so you can at least click on the screen, huh? There you go. So you're on your computer. Your computer talks to Node and it says, "Hey, I need this website." And Node says, "Sure thing, buddy," and it gives you back information. And then your browser does a whole bunch of magic in the background interpreting this information it got. And it says, "Cool, now I can tell the user what the app does." And these two talk back and forth pretty constantly about what's going on and what the user's changing and how to update that in the server, and the server talks back to it. Cool. Then there's one more layer here. A kind of important layer. We'll see here in a second. Oh, I can erase like that? That's cool. Can I scroll this way? Is it possible to go this way? Kind of, not really. There is, I should just do this in Lucid. It would be way cleaner if I did it in Lucid for you. Then we have, oh, that's so bad. Okay, we've got another box because I can draw that. No, I can't. We've got a database. Database stores all of your information. The database is where all the things like your class options, your users who are on there, your campaigns, your spells, your magic items, your actual character sheets, all your templates are going to get stored in the database. Node communicates back and forth between the database and its code while it's running to serve proper information to the user. You can imagine if we didn't have this DB, if we got rid of it, Node would have no way to remember what the user's done. Now this is fine if Node always stays running and you have infinite memory. Memory is the storage location while the computer is actually functioning and running. But as soon as you turn the computer off, the memory turns off too. in most cases. Everything's an exception when you talk about computers. Yeah, I think that's the best explanation you're gonna get from me for now. So let's go back to the code land, and I can talk a bit about what this all actually means. Where do I want to start? Let's start with the front end. Let's start with what you actually see in the browser. This is not styled. I'll explain what styling is. This is just the base, what it is. This is what it is. It's not what it looks like or what it does, but this is what it is. So, you see we've got a bunch of fields here. This is all standard stuff. Your email, your username, your password, your confirmed password, and a title for the page, right? And then a button that lets you finish the setup. This does function. This is the setup route. So when you first open the app, the first time you install it, you'll see the setup route. This creates your admin account. There's only going to be one admin account per instance. And that admin, their primary role is adding new users and making global config changes. So this is the account in charge of managing your instance. Now, there's 1,000 things to say about security, but the use case for what I'm seeing is not that this is a big D&D Beyond like where everyone goes to the same server to get their information. This is one of the people in your D&D group is a huge nerd and has their own personal server, or they know about setting things up on like Render or whatever for web servers, and everyone's going to all pool their books and everything into one place to upload to their specific instance for their group. So I didn't take all of the newest steps for security. There's a few things that I missed, though I do have a degree in cybersecurity, so I couldn't help myself but implementing everything like, 99% correctly. There's one or two things I'd change if I were doing this in a high security production environment. But listen, if your instance gets hacked, one, why? Who would want your D&D information? There's no motivation. And two, who are you? Why are people hacking you? What the fuck is going on with you? So just don't send your admin account email or information password out to people. Maybe at some point I could do 2FA integrations, but I don't know. For now, I'm not going to do it. So this is the what. Let's look at the how for this now. Aptly named, we've got our setup here. I'll explain what the router for this does in a little bit, but for now we're gonna just fucking ignore the router. This is a bit of a code review, I guess, for today, and then I'll write some code maybe tomorrow, or maybe, I don't know, we'll see. There's a whole bunch of stores and things that I can talk about with the frameworks. This is running the Vue framework. If you don't know what Vue is, there's this language called JavaScript, and it's okay. And then everyone needed a way to write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in a way that wasn't just okay, it was actually functional. So, actually, Java used to be very bad, or JavaScript used to be very bad, and now it's okay. But we still stack all this stuff on top of it to elevate to the next level. I guess the main thing to keep an eye out here for is this ref. This is just a reference, right? Essentially, this code is always refreshing itself to check for any changes. So all a ref does is it stores a value and then it checks if it changes. And when it does, it updates some certain things. That's obviously, very simple for what it's actually doing on the back end, but that's like 90% of what you need to know. So here we've got our username, our password, our confirmed password, and our email. That should all look familiar, right? If we look back at the front end here, username, email, password, confirmed password. We've also got our validation function. This just validates the required inputs. Validate password. You can put these statements directly in. I'm assuming y'all know the basic code stuff, but maybe we can cover it. If people come into chat and you want to ask me programming questions, feel free. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. 1,000 people have said everything there is to say about coding, and who knows if it'll even be relevant much longer with AI stuff. But yeah, that should be fun. This is our actual setup function. This will get more complicated later on, but for just getting everything working at a bare bones level, this is where we're at. We get some errors here that, if the validation's not correct, it will move to down here, write an error, and then just stop. But here we've got these two things: await authstore.setup, and then username, password, email, and then await setup store, check setup. We'll talk more about what this does in a little bit. That is all the script in the language for TypeScript. TypeScript is JavaScript with types. Now, if you want to know more about TypeScript, go look it up. Why it exists and all that stuff is not part of this. Then we've got our template. This is where our HTML, and I'm using air quotes that you can't see. This is where our HTML lives. It's a bit more complicated than that, but I'll explain. So this is our H1 tag, or header. If we look at how it's basically styled in the browser window, you can see up here it's bold and it's big. That is not something that's guaranteed. H1 does not mean bold and big. H1 is the header for a document. And essentially all H1 is now is either shorthand, so you want like a styling shorthand for your page, or screen readers will actually latch onto this information, the tags, these are called, and we'll use that to read information to users who can't see, or who have trouble seeing, or any number of things. Also commonly used by like page crawlers and things to find out information about your website. So just something to keep in mind. I know we think about writing code for people who can see, and that's what the big styling stuff is about, which we'll talk about down here, which I've not done any of. But there's a whole section of the populace that does not use the internet the same way that you and I do. Shush. Oh, this should be email. Thanks, AI. Fucking checking my work. No, that can just be named. That's okay. You can make a username, whatever. I have Copilot going. If you know about Copilot, Copilot is an inline chat tool. Oh, I can make this a password as well. Copilot is an inline... I can give this an email type? I knew about password, I just forgot. I did not know about email being a type you could do. We'll see if that's real. Is that real? If we bop back here... Oh, this just tells you to input your email. I'm glad that it does not screen cap the emails that just came up. Oh my gosh. Killing me. Is it going to show my password? No. All this did, let me change it back and I'll show you what changed here. So I make this text, right? And then I hit save. This is auto-updating the background. Don't worry about why it's doing that. I can explain later. I type in this field here. You see we've got our password, right? If I jump back here, and I make this password, and then we go back to the website, and I type a password in. Now it's got black dots, so people over your shoulder can't read your password. I was going to add that, and I just missed it, and Copilot caught it, so that's good. Now, I know a lot of people really, really, really don't like AI, and I also don't like AI for some things. But for coding, it is the standard way to do a lot of stuff now. Copilot is not required, obviously. You can still write stuff by hand. But in my case, I'm using it to take a lot of the kind of menial tasks that I don't like out. So it just leaves me to focus on the parts of programming that I actually enjoy, which is, a lot of the problem solving and things like that. There's conversations to be had. If you would like me to not use AI on this project, and you want to become a contributor who does all of the data entry for free, I guess email me at soupsetting2@gmail.com. We'll see. It will be for free. I can't pay you. I don't have the money. But yeah. So I'm not generating a ton of code whole cloth. I wrote all this stuff. I like writing code. I think there's like an artistry to it, So anyway, back to what we were doing. Also, I'm not putting any AI images or music or anything like that on the site because there's just a moral gray area that I don't want to walk through. Cool. The important bits, a lot of this is HTML, so ID is, giving you hooks for styling. Your type is, giving the browser a bit of information about how these should be displayed while it's running. So username is a basic text field. Email, I don't know I think email being type email just tells your browser, hey, if a user tries to enter an email in this, look through their emails that they have like associated with their browser fingerprint, and I guess throw that in there. And then password gives you black dots instead of displaying what text you're actually putting in, so that people can't peek over your shoulder and get your information. There's a bit more to how you might steal passwords from people in public, because you can look at what they're typing, but that's a whole. It just makes it harder, right? That's all security is doing, is making it more difficult. Security can't really stop anyone. Okay. Now we've got our V model. V model, you remember when I said ref up here? Ref? And I said it would update? Whenever you have something in the V model, and you give it a ref in there, so this is a property, it's a username, it's a string, if we look up here, username. Whenever we have a vModel tag and we give it a ref, whenever that ref updates, the vModel tag updates too, and vice versa. So now, if I pop back up here and I type my username in, astif, and I go back to my code, if I remember to close my browser like a smart man. Now inside of this ref, in the code that's actually running on the system, instead of being an empty string, astif is the string that's in here currently as we speak. It has already done that check and it's already put it in there. There are things you can do to delay that check and all sorts of wacky, wild stuff that Vue can do, but we're keeping it simple. This is a very, very simple use case, right? When you're dealing with, a million items or something, you have to change things around a little bit to make that function. Speaking of function, there's a button at the end called Finish Setup. When you're done and you've confirmed that all your shit's correct and the way you like it, and you've written down your password on your little sticky note that you're going to lose and fuck up, when you click the button, that's what this @click is. This is a little, event, right? It's listening for when you click. Listening is a computer term for just checking a lot. If you're clicking a thing, it will run this setup script. Let's click this and let's scroll back up. This is the setup script. It has this async tag, which means there's two different types of functions in Java or JavaScript: synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous is the default because Java likes to run things out of order by default. It does whatever's fastest first, and then that's not really what it's doing. You can think of it like it's doing whatever's fastest first, and then waiting to do stuff that's slower, or it's dedicating multiple cores on your CPU to doing a bunch of different stuff, depending on how you have your settings set up on your system. Asynchronous says, no, don't run anything else until this is done running. So, especially if you've got this await tag, right? And actually putting in a wait tag in a function, you can only put it in an async function. So if I change this back to function, it's going to give me a thing, and Copilot's going to tell me, hey, dummy, put this back up there. Okay. So, oh my gosh, my wrist is all fucked up on account of all the Hollow Knighting I've been doing. Now, when we run this auth store, I'll tell you what a store is in a moment. We've got our setup, which is doing the username, password, email. We have to do this .value, otherwise you just pass the ref to it, and the ref is not, obviously doesn't have the actual string. It needs the string. It doesn't need this, you know? We've got this await on this function. It just means it's going to run this, and then it's going to stop. And until this is done running, it doesn't run anything else. And then it's going to run this, and it's going to make sure this is done before it goes to here. This router.push, if we look at our web page again, right, up here in the top where it says .setup or /setup, it will change that to /login manually. It'll go in, it'll take you to the new page. So once you've set up your user, you need to go to the login page, actually type your login in, and then you will be logged in. Let's look at the setup. So setup is in this, or not setup, the stores. Stores are held in this folder here called stores. It's not there by default. I'm using the Pinia storage system, and essentially all of the data that you might want to use is stored in a store. Is this all making sense? Theoretically, I could, oh my gosh. I could store the username, password, confirmation password, email in the setup store, and I might change it to that later just to be a bit more correct, but for now, we're going to keep it like this. Use setup store is what we're actually exporting. So when we import it, right, in setup here, import use setup store, this is what we're getting, and all it is, if I can go back to it, where the fuck did it go? All this is a bunch of stuff, right? So we've got a few constants. These are variables that don't change, although they do kind of change because they're references that I can modify. And then some functions, and then, you know, it gives you all this. So there's another version of this called the options API, right? This is the, I don't remember the name of this API. But yeah, it's just a way to store a bunch of data in a kind of little package that you can import in a lot of other spots in your app, and it'll show up in those spots. So all check setup is doing here. We'll do check setup next. We've got auth store first. Auth store is a bit more complicated. We've got our username, we've got our role. These get set later on. This is not what's in that setup view that we were looking at before. We've got login, we've got create user, and we've got setup. So let's look at the setup thing. Here you can see the same format: username, password, and email. And then we've got our await API.post. This is sending data using a service called Axios. It's not a service. It's an API called Axios to send information to our node backend, our node server. So all of everything you've seen so far, you know, inside this source folder, is running on the user's browser. That is, if I go into our paint example, that's this right here. Oop. We're looking at this. This is view, right? This is view land. Then we go through our router, or our Axios call, back up to the server. And you'll see an extra thing here, a role admin. Technically this role doesn't do anything, but it kept the backend a little bit simpler to include it here. Technically it's stupid and lazy, but we'll see why I had that in a second. Let's just go look at that, okay? Let's go look at it, because it's bugging me. So if we close out a source, now we're going to go firmly into the node land, where the nodes are held. There's our base index here, right? We've got a whole bunch of stuff here that's handling, like, headers and things for security and all this jazz. Where the server's running at. This is our main router called API. You saw that if we go back to auth.ts, this is on the view side. This is not on the view side. What am I doing? Hang on. Please hold. Okay, if we go back to the auth here, there is too much going on. Close all this stuff. Just close all this stuff. Let's get us back to a good baseline up in my tabs here. You see this API is this API here. Now this is using a router. This router, it has a bunch of other stuff. And then we've got an app. And then we've got app.use. So router is here. It is pulling from routes and then a router module. So let's take a look at that. We've got our routes, right? And we've got our router. This is a very high level overview that we're kind of gliding 1,000-foot view just to take a quick peek at what's been done so far, and then we'll hop back with our remaining time into actually doing something new. So inside this router, there's nothing. All there is another route called auth. This is for authentication, and we're gonna hop to there. So this is authentication. Obviously, there's a bit more going on. This took me the better part of, like, I don't know, 5 hours or something. Because this is the important bit that I want to make sure is done very correctly, because, you know, security and all that jazz. Route. Cool. These are our routes. We look, we have router.get. This means use the get HTTP protocol. Go look up what that means. I'm not going to teach you all of HTTP today. You see here we have post. There's also .delete. I think those are the 3 main supported ones for this framework called Express. If you're using Node, Express is what does routing. I'm sure there are other ways to do it, other, you know, packages that let you do routing, but this is the one that most folks use and the one that I prefer. So now, we've got 2 setup routes here. One is setup status. This gets you the setup status when you're on the UI. That basically just, have we set up the thing yet? And if it's yes, then cool, we'll ignore it. If it's no, then we'll go through and we'll run the setup. I'll explain that in a moment. And then we've got our actual setup where we send information to the server, and we have it pass it through to the actual creation functions. So here I'm going to show you a little bit. We've got type checking, so we want to make sure that whatever the user gives us is correct. If a user or a malicious user can pass information into your app that is not correct or not properly formatted, that's a big issue, because that means they can do all sorts of shit you never expected. I am using this type check function, or these type check functions, with all sorts of interfaces and code stuff to determine, hey, is this a user? Are we looking at a proper role here? So your roles are going to be defined in user roles, which gives you admin, GM, player. I could always add more. These are checked in the code, and they're also enforced in the database. We'll look at the database in a little bit. Let's hop back. So the primary one we're interested in is user. Now this is where we get the thing I was talking about before with this role. So if you don't have the role, you're not a user, or whatever the data you passed in is not the user interface. That is all checked here, right? So a whole bunch of stuff you can read through at your own discretion, but the long and short of it is that if this thing returns true, whatever data you passed in adheres to this schema, this username, email, password, and role format, right? So if we bop back here, we check if it's not a user, right? We throw an invalid request body error, and that gets picked up here, which gets returned back to the view client. The actual here, right? If it is a user, it moves on. We check here, or we just unpack everything. Right, the user, email, the password. I'm gonna save that because that was misformatted. And then we await this auth.setup. We've not looked in the auth TypeScript file for the server. We've looked at the view version of this, but on the back end on the server, it is doing a bit more. So under setup here, we get our user, our email, and our password. And then we first check, is there already an admin in the database? Prisma is my database service that I'm using. I've used Sequelize. Prisma came recommended, so I'm gonna try it out. I would say one demark to Prisma is they have a bunch of dependencies that need to get updated, and they seem hesitant to do that. Nothing that's gonna super impact what I'm doing, but if you have like a very strict what is it? It's SAST, right? SAST checker. So like if you're scanning your repos and you're popping up, 9 issues or whatever, that's unacceptable. But for the small potato stuff that we're doing, we'll see. Fairly trivial to swap that stuff out. If we look in the database and we find a user with the role admin, that's what this is, where role admin is just look through the user table, and if you find a user with this role, which is admin, we return it, we save it here, and then we check if that user exists. That's what if user means. We throw an error, unauthenticated, admin already exists. It's technically not, unauthenticated isn't the wording that you should use, but basically authentication, or this error resolves to a specific 401 error. So basically you're just not allowed. That's what this is saying. Like, cool, thanks for requesting, but no. I thought about a few things, like maybe this should just give you a 500 error because, whatever, but I think if you already have an admin, creating a new one is strictly outside of anyone's prerogative. So, next, we hash our password. Hashing is a complex math thing that if you aren't in security... Where's that person? There's someone outside my apartment driving off into the woods. If you aren't in security, you don't really need to know about it. It's what's called a one-way math operation, which is mostly true. Which means that you insert a password, and on the other side you get a string of numbers. And it takes an obscene amount of time to take that string of numbers that you get from the password or from hashing and converting it back into a password. So once you've got your hash password, it's on its own. You can't really do anything with it besides look at it and think that it's pretty. On here, you know, if someone has the hashed password, if they steal it from the database and they give it back to this hashed password can't return the same thing. So if you sorry, there's like a bunch of cars driving by. What's going on? If you pass anything in here, it can't return the same string back to you. So if you have the hash password, it doesn't do anything. If you look in the database and you see the password field and you pull that information out, it's useless to you. Until like 5 years from now when they actually get quantum computing going in a bunch of labs, you know. I think they might still be government labs at that point. But there's governments who like to steal passwords, you know, not gotta name any names, you know. You can think of a few. I'll name one, North Korea. They really like stealing passwords. They also like ransom attacks, which is a fun thing I learned in cybersecurity school, which is North Korea's main gig is locking your computer down for ransom because they need to fund their regime somehow, and they don't make enough money trading with their allies to do it, so they literally have to steal. Cool fact that I learned. Secondhand fact, so trust it if you want. What we're doing? Hashing passwords. So if North Korea steals your hashed password, they can't do shit until they get a quantum computing lab that can de-hash your password. And then you'll have to talk to a quantum computing lab to get your password hashed to the security of where a quantum computing lab can't unhash it. It's an arms race. Everyone, the security gets better, and then the attackers get better, and we do this back and forth forever, ad nauseum. Until the universe ends or we blow ourselves up, you know? And then we have this Prisma create. This, you know, inserts this bit of data, which as you can see is a user, a username and email, a hashed password this time, so we're not storing the actual user's password. And then a role, an admin role. You probably also noticed, and you're gonna say, "Soup, man, you can't be logging this stuff." There's a logger up here that logs the request body. This is what rec is, request, and body is just all the info that's in there. It's logging in the debug. If you are creating your instance and you turn on the debug flag, don't do that. Why? I mean, if you really need it, I guess. So just be wary that your friends, if they're assholes, could steal your data. I could take it out, but also your friend could be an asshole who's smart and fork the repo, and then just change this bit of code and deploy it to their server, and just steal your passwords anyway. So, if your friends are assholes, I can't help you. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I wish I could. Cool. There's something I just noticed. There's also this bit of error handling that's just Prisma. Basically, if you get this error code, it means that something went wrong with the creation. Let's look at, really quick, if we bump back here, because I realized I made a mistake. This unauthenticated error doesn't actually get checked for back here. So we're going to add that. We can just do or. That's what this means. And thanks, Copilot, you handled that shit for me. Yippee. What does it piss you about? Where does it want to do this? Down here. If I go to create user, is that something that can happen? No, it's fucking hallucinating. Okay, we can talk about AI some more, because this is a topic that I'm interested in. Basically, if you let AI do whatever it wants to, when you're programming, it can be very useful if you tell it what to do. If you let it do whatever it wants, you're gonna get stuff like that, where it thinks like, oh, we did code up here that was kind of similar to code down here, so it should all be like that. And if you're not an experienced programmer on the back end, you might be like, yeah, that sounds great, just do it for me. But you really need to know how this stuff works to know, like, no, we don't need that code there. Because every extra bit of code you add is a security risk. Even the simplest stuff. If I fucking just put in like const v equals asdef, right? Even adding this little bit of code seems very, very simple. But you've just increased the complexity of your program, you've increased the line count needlessly. This code doesn't actually do anything. Most linters aren't going to let you pass this through. A lot of pipelines won't let you pass this through. Like, this is not acceptable to just have code here that doesn't do anything unless it's required for it to be there. So unless you know what you're doing, I would recommend that you don't just use AI for everything, because this is not correct, even if it's telling you it's correct. Fucking stop it, jeez. Okay. That's my rant. That's my rant. We've also got this JWT token. I can talk more about how the auth system actually works. It's, I don't know, when you first boot up your system and you don't have a JWT secret, it will generate one for you. That's kind of all you need to know. This is JWT is JSON Web Token. Basically, the server doesn't keep track of whether or not you're logged in. So Node never really knows who's logged in at any point besides knowing whether or not they've logged in and logged out. I guess could be logged, but this JWT token is using the same kind of hashing thing to create a little bit of text that it can give to the view app, the front end. If we open that up, this little bit of view will get a string of like base 64 encoded text that stores a little bit of information and a signature and everything. And through mathematical magic that you have to learn if you go to school, when you send that little bit of info back to the server can go, yes, I see that I signed this for you. These only get signed when you go to authenticate. And because you have this, it means that you have a ticket to look at whatever you're looking at. We can look at what that is in a second here. Let's look at that. This is part of login. It does a whole bunch of checking back here, right? Like, you send your username with the token, and if you have a token but your user's not in the database, that shit doesn't fly. So we do need to check for it. Let's hop back into the route and we can look at login really quick. This is where we create a token. The important bits are actually here, create token. Where do I do this? Is this in JWT token now? Yeah. Cool. You just take your username and you stick it in the token, and then that's basically all this is. It signs it, so it packages everything up in a neat little bundle with your secret. And then unless you have it's not actually a hash, okay? It's a signature, so if you want to be a security expert, I don't teach that. You should go definitely like read a book, or maybe go to school if you want that. Oh man, I'm starting to get a headache. There's also this expires in tag. This expires in 6 hours. Typically, you expire them a lot more frequent, and then you have a refresh token that you can use. I'm going to be 100% honest. This is not as a critical security outlet. D&D sessions go about 6 hours. In, I think, like 90% of cases, it's 6 hours or less. So if you've got your app open for more than 6 hours and you have to log back in again, I'm not too upset with that. I can add the refresh token thing later if people fucking complain, but for now it's fine. I don't want to. I wrote this at like fucking midnight last night. Something important here is secure. This means that it only sends through HTTPS, right? And then we've got our HTTP only. This only gets accessed by the web server and your browser. So the front end can't actually see that you have this cookie at all. It's just the browser that's looking at this, and there's some setup stuff you can do so that whenever you send a request back to the server, it gets this information and you're automatically authenticated with the magic of JWT tokens. This is my preferred way to do all authentication through web servers. I think it's very clean, and I think it puts a lot less strain on the server. You can do things where you track your sessions through the server and who's logged in and who's not, and I think that is rife for misuse. If you do JWT tokens securely, correctly, it's very, very secure. So I prefer it. We also, when we log in, we pass the username and the user role back to the user so that they have that information for the front end to be able to look at. Now, let us... we can take a look at one last thing. This authenticate token function is called middleware. If you don't know what middleware is, it is functions that run before other functions. So we've got this post, and when we run the route, we authenticate the token first, right? So we look at the token that we get from the user, and we check and we say, okay, cool, I've got a token from you, it's correct, it's signed, everything is signed correctly, you're good to go. Then we check the required role. So creating a user requires you to be an admin. This function is in user roles. It's right here. It just checks that you're an admin. If you're not an admin, it boots you back out and it tells you to piss off and pound sand, right? When this is done, we run all this jazz, and then we get into the actual meat of what we're doing. Middleware is for things that are repetitive and happen a lot, and everything after middleware is for things that happen less frequently. Something I could probably add is, moving this type check for the body into a middleware and moving the debugger into a middleware. If I feel like that's necessary, I'll do it at some point, but for now, I don't want to. Cool. Okay, let's talk about the Prisma. This is using a database called SQLite. SQLite databases are stored in a database file like this. You can't see it because it's encoded. This gets generated when you open your instance. There's going to be a bunch of seed files and things with the SRD information. We can talk about the SRD in a little bit as well, because I've been doing some AI work with that, and we'll see how it did, because I ran an agent to read through the SRD and put some things into tables so that I don't have to do the data management, because it would take me like literal weeks to convert all of the SRD into data tables that are going to match what I want, and I don't have that time. I wish I had that time. I wish I could pay someone to do it, but no one wants that job, so it's very expensive to get people to do that. Fucking annoying work. Unless you want to do it for free. If you want to do it for free, I will let you do it for free. Just if you wanted that. I don't know if anyone wants to do that data entry. I cannot pay you, so... Cool. Where am I at with this? My head hurts. I feel like there's something else that I missed in create user. Really quick, I'm gonna do something with this. So, create user, we need to check that the role is not... If role, okay, there we go. Save, and then when we bot back to routes, we need to check here for, are you gonna pick it up? There we go. Cool, I'm glad that I caught that, because that would have been a pain in the ass later. There can only be one admin per instance, so I'm just stopping it. Why is the reminders so low on screen again? Fucking annoying. I'll have to fix that. Okay, we're getting close to midnight, so I'm starting to gas out. I'm a little tired. I never got how people could go party on Friday night after working all week. Because Friday night is the most tired night of the week, and then you're gonna go do stuff at night? Fucking go to sleep. What the fuck are we doing? Why are you going and then drinking alcohol, which tanks your recovery, after you've been stressed out all week working? What? That's like the worst time of the week to go drink on a Monday night. Fucking come on, that you're most rested. Drink on Sunday night. Go booze it up on Sunday night. What are they gonna do at work the next day? Fire you? Booze it at work. Don't do that. Do not do that. Unless drinking is your job somehow. God, that was jokes and satire. That was not a legitimate thing to tell people to go booze at work. People are gonna think I was fucking serious about that. Okay, that's all for the routes for now. We'll bop back out there in a little bit just to poke around and make some stuff about it. Let's look at the router really quick. Okay, router's in here. Look, router index. If we look at the actual web page up here, these are our routes. There's a bit more to URLs than just this stuff, but you don't need to know it. The framework handles a lot of that stuff. So we've got our setup route here that we're at currently. Sorry, I flashbang the audience every time I open that window. It's a real pain in the dick. We've also got our home route, and we've got our login route. Now, before we run any routes, we've got this router before each, and we check where we're going. So that's 2, right? This is where we have that setup store where that comes into play. Let's look at that. We have our is complete, and we have our checked. If checked is true, right? We've obviously looked at this data. If checked is false, we've not looked at it. And when we pop up into here, we see that we've got our setup store, right? We check if it's already been looked at, because we don't want to spam the server with requests. Because here, obviously, we're hitting the server. We don't want to do that more than we have to. It's bad practice. Obviously, if you've got a lot of users, it's a bigger problem. If you got like 5 or 6, you're not really gonna hit that. But I like to do things by the book sometimes. You got to sometimes, otherwise you never do it. Then we check if the setup store is complete. If we've actually looked at it and the setup's already complete, then we go to login, right? Or if we try to go to setup and we've already completed setup, we go to login instead. This is so that when setup is done, people can't go back to the setup page and try and input a new admin user, right? Not allowed. Technically people could put calls through to the Axios app, right? And that would cause issues. So that's why there's another check in the route itself. But here, we just disallow it from a user standpoint. We don't want them to think that they have power that they don't have, right? Here, if we try to go to any place but setup, right, anywhere else that's not set up while we're not set up yet, it sends us to the setup page. So let's actually look at that. Let's open this and let's try and go to that home page that we had, right? If we go to the home page, it sends us to setup anyway. It's like, no, you can't go anywhere else. You have to stay on this page. It's the only place to go. You need an admin account before the app functions at all. So cool. I think that just about covers everything that I wanted to talk about today. So, after code reviewing everything I've done already, we have exactly 13 minutes. But I have bad news. I really have to use the restroom, so we're gonna take a quick break. I'll be right back. I'm returned. Okay. I am a big believer in setting a strong foundation whenever you set out to do something that will take a lot of time or motivation or effort. As a result of that, I'm focusing on the boring stuff first. The app doesn't look very pretty. Everything is very simple, no to the ground. We're focusing on the basics of how do you actually use the app to start? How do you log in to do it? Literally anything. It's the most important part of the app. It's critical. It's very critical that this is done correctly. So I'm focusing on it first. Next time we do this, we will get to do some more fun stuff. And part of building a strong foundation is making sure that it's actually strong. I noticed a bug a few hours ago. So if I just enter some random bullshit here, right? First, this email's not getting checked. We need to do that. If I do a setup, I don't want to... Why did that just show on screen? Your password just found in a data breach. Oh. I don't want to save this, thank you. That was very funny. We've now got our login page. You can see that's what that router push was. If we take a look back at our setup page here. Router.push to login. That just pushes the user to the login page. Surprise, surprise. Now we can type in our username and password. I can log in. And then we get to our home page. Now, something is incorrect here. and I don't have the time to show it to you. But basically, I logged in last night, and then I went to sleep, and I got back up, and I restarted the server, and even though my token had long since expired, it booted right back up to the welcome home page, not the login page. So no matter if you're logged in or not, and actually let me nuke the database really quick. We can take a look at how this works. I've got all sorts of functions here in the package. If you do a lot of node programming or a lot of JS programming, you'll figure this stuff out. But I've got this nuke function here that I predefined. It does a whole bunch of stuff on the back end, and you can see all my login and everything here. If I go npm, actually let me kill my server. There we go. npm run nuke. That goes through to Prisma, and it says, hey, tear it all down, put it away, and then build it back. So that all that did was it just cleared the admin user from the database, so I can rebuild it from the start. And if I run dev now, and we bop back out to here, we're back on the setup page, because now it's no longer set up. If I set up a user, as the email, and I finish setup, cool. Now we encounter the data breach because that's a fucking stupid password. But we've got our login page, but there's a very significant security flaw that I programmed in that I did not check. Which is that if I go up here and I go to home, you don't have to log in to go to shit. You don't have to log in to go anywhere. And because home is the root of the application, the root of the application is not login. It tries to send you home first. We need to check anytime you go anywhere in the app, except for the setup page, that if you're not logged in, you're not welcome. So let's get that knocked out really quick. That should be fairly simple. Now, you're gonna ask yourself, how do we check if we're fucking logged in? I don't remember, but we'll do it. In auth, we've got our username set here. Got our role set here. We need a route to check, am I still logged in? And you know how we do that? You know how we do that? Simple. We just check off. It's like it's fucking reading my mind. Catch first status equals no. Fucking that's not a catch. Dummy. Yeah, catch error. Cool. Fucking come on, cut it out. Nope. I'm opening random shit now. We never check res. I don't need to. No, this needs to return true or false. Hang on. Some shit just flew across the yard. Bad weather, folks. Bad omens. Oh my gosh. We have our error that we can check, but we're going to return auth res dot is it dot data dot authenticated? What is the I don't actually know if that's what it is. What is it here? Res dot data, yeah. Okay. Is that data dot authenticated here? Okay. And then in our router, before we go to any route, we want to check this, and we want to say if, let's make another if statement. So if we haven't checked the setup yet, if you're going anywhere but the login page or the setup page, toPath is login. Nope, not and. Fucking stop that. Nope, I want or was intended. Or was intended. I intend. Some shit just hit my window. I'm hoping we don't get like a tornado or something wild. That'd be a fucking bummer. Hang on, we can actually make this a bit simpler. If we check this after here, we already know that setup store is complete. And we also don't need to check if we're going to log in or if we're going to set up. So basically, if we're not going to log in, if toPath does not equal login, fucking stop it. Why is it trying to get me to do a bunch of random bullshit? We need to await our auth store. Equals await substore check. No, not substore. Auth store. There we go. Import that. Did it import correctly? Yes. And then this needs to be fucking not authenticated. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. What is it crying about now? Check auth is not exported by the auth doodad. Let's do that. Check auth. Cool. Now, it'll throw an error if I try this, so let's bop back to the routes. We've got 1 minute. I don't know if I can do it in 1 minute, but maybe we'll extend our time a little bit. So we need router.getCheck authenticate token. Yes, authenticate token. We don't need to be a specific anything. Try authenticated true. This is all correct. Checking auth error. No, there should not just be 500. We should also do. Yeah, I guess we'll just throw an if statement in here. If error instance case. Okay, there we go. Else. Boop. Cool. There we go. That's our authentication route. If you're wondering what all that magic was, that was all Copilot taking the reins for some of the stuff that was important, or some of the stuff that, you know, was not super important that I'm keeping watch for. And I think this should all be architected correctly. So now, if I try to go to the home page when I'm in login, it sends me back to login because I'm not fucking logged in. If I try to go to the setup page, we're already set up, so it sends me to the login page. If I type in my username and my password, which are both very secure, yes, DF, all very secure, and I log in, fucking, what? No, not the page source, you dumbass. Me, the dumbass. Access error request failed, the status code 404. Did it make a mistake? Did I not check it? Oh. I need to close the server and restart it. Node, the backend server, doesn't automatically update. There are ways to do it, I just haven't. So I restarted that, and now if I fucking stop being a dummy, and I log in, it sends me to the home page. Cool. And you can see I can also navigate back to the login page. There's no harm in logging in again if you're already logged in. So, there we go. Cool. I did it. The setup thing still works, right? If I go to setup. Yeah, I did it. This service is going to be called OpenSheet when it's done. We'll see how this gets along. If this works out, I'll be pretty excited. I think I've got a good leg on it. And let me take a look. I don't know if I want to show this on stream, but I want to look. You can get my live reaction. I put Claude to work Claude is an AI, you know, not GAI or anything. It's just regular old, I almost said MLM, that might be what it is, but I obviously can't verify that. It's an LLM, which is a large language model, with some extra stuff on top of it to make it a little bit more cohesive and a little bit more functional. They have Claude Code, which is what my Copilot is running on. It's running on Claude Sonnet 4, I think, whatever the previous version was. Now I'm not going to show you my actual thing because this is my personal Claude account. I don't want to like give away my personal details, but I gave it the prompt. First I downloaded the SRD from Wizards of the Coast. The SRD is the standard rules declaration. Is that what it is? It's the basic free rules that you can get on their website for D&D. It comes with a bunch of spells and all the main 12 classes, right? Everything except for the Artificer. If I wanted to add that all to my app, because you can, the SRD stuff is all free, you can do whatever you want with it. It's all under Creative Commons. If I wanted to add that all to my app, I'd have to go through and manually enter all of the data. So all of the spells level and all their names and all the text in them and all that stuff. I don't have the time. If I wanted this done, I'd have to pay someone, steal someone off the street, convince someone to work for free, or just not do it at all. Or I could use the chat bot. So I've got their co-work app here open that you can't see because I'm just not going to show it. Here, you can look at the code. Fancy code. And I told it I gave it the SRD. This is the D&D SRD using only this document, so it can't look at the internet. I disallowed it. And yes, I'm going to 100% go through and review that all of the information in this is correct by hand as a human. It is the typing and copying that I don't want to do. Every input you put on a computer takes time. I'd have to review it anyway, so I'm just taking the first step out of it. Using only this document, create an insert statement to seed a SQLite database spells table. Each spell should have a name, school, level, and text body. Put all that info into a .sql file in the provided D&D folder. So if you were an intern at a software company, this is the shit your manager would tell you to do. And I have not looked at this data yet because it was running while I started stream. And I'm very interested to see the quality I get out of here. So let's take a look. Open. There we go. Could I just open it in VS Code? Open with VS Code? Oh, sure, open and restricted. Oh, you can't see it. Bummer. Okay, the SQL all looks good. It gives you the create table. It's pretty cool. It even gives you some documentation. It tells you how many spells you have. Okay, I should have it pull more information about casting time and the range and things so that we can search for this info when we have a spells table. But this is pretty good for a first run. I'm not noticing any... I'm noticing some issues. It has not escaped any characters, so that's a problem. Alright. So this is not perfect first time. Alright. There are also some non-ASCII characters in here I'll have to filter out. Okay, good to know. This is the first time I've ever used the cowork function for anything like this. Cool, I can see all this stuff. It's giving me some non-ASCII characters in here, which I'm not quite on board with. But yeah, this is just a... If you want a reference for how big this file is, all of the 300 spells in the SRD is 6,900 lines of fucking SQL code, which I will review, but if I had to write it, it would take me days and days to get this stuff all copied in. They pay like a full team at DnD Beyond to do all the data entry for this, so if I can get this into a state where I can get this stuff all added very easily, if I can, create a backend that allows me to make this all, simple, I'll be very, very pleased with that. Let me see if I can show you this page, because I think this is kind of interesting information. If you're looking into making an app and maybe you're thinking about using a code, an agent to do it, this might give you more information into what you're getting into. So this is the actual SQL file that it generated, that Claude generated on its own. I just gave it a prompt, and you can see we've got some issues. So the first is my issue. I told it a very specific, school name, level, and body, right? That was naive of me. I should have given it more, because I got what I asked for, but not what I wanted. Right, so Acid Arrow is the name of the spell. It's an evocation spell. It's got a level of 2. It's a level 2 spell. I'm assuming they're listed in alphabetical order in the SRD, so that's how it gets outputted to this. Its casting time is an action, but this is all in the body of text. So I need to add things like casting time to this. Its range needs to be in a proper format up here. Its components probably need to be in like an array, so V, S, and then M, and then material components needs to be another field on top of that. And then duration is very important. Obviously, concentration is important for this stuff. D&D spells are very, very complex. 5th edition is obviously less so than previous versions, but we've also got this using a higher level spell slot, right? So that needs to be taken care of as well. And that just needs to be noted. Maybe the text needs to be in here somewhere as like a separate item. So lots of stuff to think about. And then as well, let's look at some stuff that that VS Code is picking up for us, and the music software. The stream's wrapping up. Some stuff that D&D VS Code found for us, right? So we've got brackets in here because no, this one's fine. Am I just stupid? I might just be stupid, actually. Hang on. Maybe it did escape a lot of this stuff. No, it didn't. You know what? I'm just dumb. Pardon me. There are some things that are still wrong. These characters are not the base ASCII quote, right? So you can't have that. You can if you're using Unicode, but I probably will not, because I want this to be widely applicable and simple. As well, there is whatever this character is. This doesn't even show up in VS Code, so it's obviously a bad character. We can actually look in the SRD for this specifically. We copy animal friendship into here. I want to do this on my own. I go into my SRD, because I think my name is like on this Adobe page, right? Control F, I look for animal friendship. It's going to search through everything. It's taking a sweet ass time. Isn't this just a grep? Why is this taking so long? There we go. No, that's druid descriptions. Okay, here we go. Animal friendship. The target must succeed in wisdom saver have the charm condition. If you, it's a page break. I see. So what happened is the animal friendship spell is at the bottom of a page, and then on the next page it picks up at the top. And that is what's actually causing the error. Also, my whole PDF viewer just fucking glitched and died. So, that's the end of that. Thanks, Adobe. Good job. Good job. But yeah, these are the last two words on that page, and then it page breaks and goes to here. So now we know. We'll just say remove page breaks in there. And that should be fine. I mean, honestly, I'm very pleased with how well this worked. Everything's in a consistent format, so I kind of expected it to do a good job. I could probably also write code to do this because it's in a consistent format. But this already does it. I don't know. If you want to fill me in with what you think about using an AI agent to do like menial data entry work like this, I guess let me know and I'll take that into account. But I want to do all the coding myself, so we'll see. We'll see. That's all I got. It's late and I have a session to run tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna go sleep.